AP Cram, the AP Human Geography exam. For your response, question 29, industrial location, automobile industry. Industrial location models are used to explain geographic patterns of economic activity. The maps show automobile factories built before 1986 and after 1986. Okay, so just take a moment, about 30 seconds, to briefly peruse and visually scan these maps with your eyes. Note the titles: automobile factories built in the United States before 1986, automobile factories built in the United States between 1986 and 2006. And note what the legend is telling you about each factory that's located on the map. 5,000 employees foreign owned. This is 5,000 employees United States owned. So they're domestic and internationally owned factories that are depicted here. Okay. All right. Identify and explain 7 factors related to industrial location that have contributed to changes in the geography of automobile factory construction as shown by the maps. Okay, so note the construction patterns here before 1986 and then do a visual scan after 1986. Okay, I'll give you a moment to do a visual scan. Press pause if you need to. All right, the first factor has to do with low cost labor, not to be confused with low skill or uneducated workforce. These are different things, okay? So I'll give you a moment to formulate a response. Press pause if you need to. More non-unionized labor in the South, that is the Sun Belt region, which would be over here, the Southeast. And there's also a lot of right to work states in the South, again, in the Southeast or Sun Belt region. And in case some of you don't know what the right to work movement is, right to work laws are statutes in a number of states, like all over, especially like south of this line, that prohibit union security agreements or agreements between employers and labor unions that govern the extent to which an established union can require an employee to have mandatory membership, okay, or pay union dues or fees as a condition of employment. So these right to work laws limit that, all right? A second factor has to do with marketing strategy, more so on the part of international firms rather than domestic firms. So I'll give you a moment to think over and formulate your answer. Okay? More foreign-owned companies minimize their shipping costs by having their factories located within the United States, and more foreign-owned companies avoid paying federally imposed tariffs for importation in the United States by having their factories, again, located in the United States. And this is because the United States represents one of the world's largest markets for automobile usage. So it's smart to have your factories here. Okay, a third factor is deindustrialization, and we're talking about the northern region only, specifically around the Rust Belt region. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to formulate and write out an answer. Press pause if you need to. There's been a shift or relocation of automobile plants because of high labor costs in the north. You know, unions are required up north. And there's also been a shift because obsolete infrastructure in the north or the Sun Belt region, this region right here. Okay, so once built factories are now becoming outdated. And also, a lot of domestic American plants are shifting from states in the United States to in the north to Mexico, where it's cheaper to run their factories. So these are three different reasons for the deindustrialization of the north. A fourth factor that has changed the industrial location of automobile factories is government policies. I'll give you a moment to think about this and formulate your answer. Press pause if you need to. Well, economic and development incentives, pro industrial policies in maybe underdeveloped areas probably prompted factories to move from these regions to other locations, or even prompted them to move to other countries because these pro industrial policies may be for other industries that are not automobile centered, okay? Connections to pre-existing infrastructure systems such as interstate highways, railways, water lines, sewage lines, and electricity, all necessary infrastructure for building a factory. Okay, so these already set in place infrastructures may have prompted factories to move elsewhere. And state and local taxes. I used to live in Florida where there was like no state income tax. Also, that's true for Texas. So that may prompt people to move their factories to the south, okay, or other regions. But here it seems to be more southward. And various zoning and environmental regulations, after a while of having a factory in a particular location, like we're seeing now in Flint, there may be runoff and various waste products that build up over years and call for the shutdown of such factories and the cleaning up of the environment. So this may also prompt automobile industries to move elsewhere. Okay. Another factor that has changed the landscape of automobile industrialization locations is the availability and accessibility of cheap land. I'll give you a moment to formulate your answer and write it out. Press pause if you need to. So accessible and available sites in the South usually cost less than accessible and available sites in the North. Okay, hence why you see the changes in location. All right. A sixth factor that has influenced the automobile industry location changes throughout the United States is available infrastructure. Okay, there's several things associated with this. It was also previously mentioned under government policies. So I'll give you a moment to think and formulate and write an answer down. Take a pause break, press the pause button if you need to. All right, so cost efficient interstate highway systems in the South, our Southeast region, the Sun Belt, especially I 95, and all the associated highways that run off of I 95 or alongside I 95 make it easier to transport goods, which is really necessary in any industry, okay? And there's also a cost efficient rail system in the South or Southeast or the Sun Belt, which make transporting freight and goods easier. And this allows for quick and inexpensive assembly of supplies for the manufacture of automobiles and efficient distribution of automobiles to dealerships. So again, infrastructure just makes the production plot and delivery to the end user just more efficient. And already existing infrastructure facilitates just-in-time production, which is kind of like what this is saying. You don't have to build your goods way far in advance. You can build them just when needed because you can almost have the assurance that you'll be able to deliver them because of the nearby highways and railways. All right, but for those of you who are not exactly familiar with this term, it's more of a manufacturing term. Just in time is an inventory strategy companies employ to increase their efficiency and decrease waste by receiving the goods that they need to build, let's say, their cars, just when they are needed in the production process, and not by buying a whole bunch of supplies and having them stored up. This saves the company money. So that's just what that means, okay? All right, the seventh factor we'll discuss in why the landscape of the automobile industry has shifted from the Rust Belt region to maybe the Sun Belt, it looks like, is because of cheap energy. You need energy to run a manufacturing process, any manufacturing process, not just automobile production. So I'll give you a moment to formulate your answer and press pause if you need to. All right, so energy is abundant and inexpensive in the South relative to the North. The South or Southeast Sunbelt region, which is over here, is below the national average of cost in dollars for kilowatt hours, and this is kilowatt hours is the unit of measurement of energy of electrical power. Okay.